So now the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League has reached this part of its entire conversation where the game's numbers have dipped on Steam. We don't know how it's doing on PlayStation. The most important thing to me is the representation of the characters. I've said this before, from a gameplay perspective and as a live service game, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is fine the way it's been developed. However, the representation of the superhero characters has been the one thing that shot the game in the foot. I think that if the developers had done a little bit of fanfare, they may have at least received a positive perception towards the game. You see, Batman Arkham Knight was a heavily criticized game. Some of you may or may not know it came out on PC broken. Ion Galaxy did that port and it was taken down like it was cyberpunked off of Steam. And the developers were giving you, according to a report I read, were giving you a copy of Arkham City and Arkham Asylum if you held on to your copy while they were patching the game. However, it still stands to be one of the best superhero games that's been made from a technical perspective, gameplay perspective, mechanical perspective, and even story perspective. Not as strong as Arkham City, but still a strong entry nonetheless. When you think about what this game did, it put Batman in a very strong light. In fact, I would argue that Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League comes really close in terms of gameplay, depth and in the mechanical, the technical depth. Let me say that. Gameplay depth, no. Technical depth, yes. Right? But then you look at a game like Gotham Knights and the representation of Batman, and I can say that is a close second, while Suicide Squad falls in last place because the way the character is killed off is without regard or respect. Many have said that, the way Wonder Woman was actually taken, out of the picture was probably the most honorable of all of the, Justice League members. Now, there's also the talk about 13 Brainiacs and possibly the Justice League coming back and all of this. But it leads me to wonder how the Wonder Woman game is going to be handled from a story perspective. Right now, there's a conversation about how, writers are representing characters, with Lara Croft from Tomb Raider and with the way Harley Quinn was represented and how they're not, artistically appealing and all of this stuff. Now, to be honest, I couldn't care at all how a character looks in a video game for the most part. Now, if they're a superhero, their outfits, their costumes, yes, those things do matter. So I'm not saying that, forget the Harley Quinn discussion, forget the, Lara Croft, conversation. I think those characters are iconic for their presentation, yes. But there's also the side of people talking about how most of the writers these days don't necessarily have what I think is an eye for, the way the characters are viewed by their audiences. So how are they going to write the Wonder Woman game? That's a very interesting question. They're writing it with a Nemesis system. The game is going to feature, I think it's going to be featured in Themyscira, which is basically her world, but I'm not necessarily certain what we should expect because having seen the last few, games that have come out, and haven't seen the way they've been influenced, or maybe not even influenced by other companies out there, maybe even the writers, it's going to be very interesting to see how they write such an authentic female character that's very strong already. I wonder if they're going to lose their minds and misrepresent her, or they're going to be able to provide the empathetic, and I would say kind-natured version of her. We've seen some versions of Wonder Woman that are not necessarily that. But at the core, Wonder Woman is like this, very kind-hearted, benevolent, but very strong character, if you get what I mean. In fact, I was surprised that, Superman easily kind of took her out. But there's been a Superman representation in the media these days that have made it, seem like Superman is basically untouchable. When if you look at the cartoons that Paul Dini wrote, there was a brawl between Superman and Wonder Woman, and it wasn't so easy for him. I mean, so to me, I think she's a very solid character, and I'm looking forward to that. And so this is going to be, in my opinion, the inflection point for a lot of DC, fans. And, I don't know how many DC fans even do like Wonder Woman. I do like the character a lot. Like, for some reason, the character to me really stands out. It's one of those characters I will place as iconic as, I don't know, even as Batman, because she's always existed and had a lot of media presence, and the representation has been really solid, played by really good, talent as well. And even in the animated series, we've gotten to see her as well be played, in a very cool light. So these are some of the things that I'm actually chalking up as points, towards the character. So for those of you who are, in the DC fan community, I think, this might be the one, shot that these developers have to really prove that they know what it is that they're doing. And Monolith as a studio, they've made us some really cool games with Shadow of War and Shadow of Mordor, but we don't know if the talent who wrote those games are still, basically calling the shots. I do know that, as a reality, one of Monolith's old bosses has moved to EA a long time ago. So it's a lot of new talent there, but we don't know if we still have some OGs because they're a very quiet studio. They just sit down and just work. So they're not necessarily coming out there. They're not even posting on Twitter. Their devs are not really even posting on Twitter. So this is going to be very interesting overall to see how this character will be represented. But let me hear your thoughts in the comment section. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you guys' time and audience. And hopefully we'll talk pretty soon in another one. Peace out.